Hey everybody, this is Jacqueline Lukeman, and it is Wednesday afternoon, and I am not too far from Washington, D.C. I'm in Arlington, Virginia, and I wanted to take a few minutes to talk about this whole Kamala Harris kerfluffle, I guess we want to call it, that's in the midst of happening right now. And there's a lot of what do you want to call it? I guess resistance to Kamala Harris as a candidate for the Democratic Party now. Hey y'all, hey Michelle, hey Christopher. There was a lot of resistance to her candidacy on the left, on the non-Democratic Party left, I guess I should say. I know, Michelle, thank you. Good for you. Cool. And people within the Democratic Party are kind of pissed off about that because they think that we're being unreasonable. I've seen a bunch of articles posted about this telling people on the left that we need to get rid of our purity test and you know that our criticism of Kamala Harris is unreasonable. Here's the thing. I have a specific reason for being mistrustful of Kamala Harris. And I'm upset that the Democratic Party did exactly what I figured they would do, exactly what they did with Hillary Clinton, basically already starting the narrative that like, hey, here's a woman that you can vote for. We are gonna have our first woman president, and look, she's black. As if that's supposed to give me a good enough reason to vote for somebody. Those are not good reasons for me to vote for people, for anything, for dog catcher. I want to know what your policies are. I want to know what your stand on issues that affect me and other marginalized people are. And that's where I have a problem with Kamala Harris. Because when she was Attorney General for California, during the height of the investigations of one of the big mortgage companies, one of the big banks that caused the mortgage crisis in California, that created what some journalists called an extinction level event for Black and Latino middle class homeowners. That's how serious this was. Hey, Pete, that's how serious the mortgage crisis was. Thank you, Christopher. It was One West. Thank you. One West Bank out in California. I mean, the mortgage crisis for Black and Latino families, this wasn't just like, you know, oh, this was a recession. This was literally financial institutions that were considered by politicians and legislators and the prosecutors to be too big to fail, or too big to jail, rather. They were actually afraid that if they put some of these people in jail, these institutions would crumble. And that's ridiculous, because you mean to tell me that if any of these people had gone to jail, if any of these people had gone to prison for the subprime lending crisis, for the racial discrimination that they participated in to create and support the subprime lending crisis, and how their illegal actions contributed to what has been characterized as an extinction level event for Black and Latino homeowners, you don't think somebody else would have been able to come in and do those people's jobs? I mean, that's the reasoning. People like Eric Holder, who I have respect for Eric Holder for some of the things he did, but I absolutely am completely in opposition to his decision while he was leading the Justice Department not to prosecute these people and send them to prison for stealing the homes, the wealth, and the futures of American homeowners. And it disproportionately affected Black and Latino homeowners. So when Kamala Harris was AG in California, she did the same thing. She refused to file charges against One West Bank. Now, listen, and from what I understand, she didn't give a reason for why she didn't do it. As far as I'm concerned, there is no prosecutor who could give a valid enough reason for not prosecuting people who participated in a Ponzi scheme that they knew would result in massive losses of homes. They knew. These people aren't unintelligent. I think we have a problem in this country when powerful people are caught doing wrong things. I think we actually believe on some level that they didn't know what they were doing. These people are not unintelligent. They did what they did because they could get away with it and they could make billions, maybe even trillions of dollars doing it. What they didn't count on was getting caught. And when they were caught, they were able to wrangle some type of deal with state prosecutors and the Justice Department where nobody went to prison, but their companies were able to pay these fines that most of that money didn't go back to the homeowners. Most of the people who lost their homes still lost their homes. Their homes weren't saved. So for Kamala Harris to have chosen not to prosecute One West Bank for their role, their knowing complicity in creating, in expanding people who've been pushed into poverty, for decimating the middle class, for creating the conditions through which people lost their homes and their wealth and their future. How am I not supposed to question that she did that? Am I not supposed to question her because she's black? Are you kidding me? Or she's a woman of color? Are you serious? Am I not supposed to question that she did that? And am I not supposed to scrutinize her decision to do that and the misery that it contributed to because she's a woman? That's offensive to me. That is absolutely offensive to me. And as someone who I'm not the most politically astute person that a lot of people know, but I know a couple of things. As somebody who pays even a slight bit of attention to politics, the idea that I'm not supposed to hold my elected officials accountable just because they're black like me or just because they're a woman like me, that's offensive. That's ridiculous. If that's the case, then I can come to your house, take your stuff, and you shouldn't be able to question it because I'm black and I'm a woman like you, if you are either one of those things, if that's the way it's supposed to work. So if it doesn't work that way with you and I, just regular old citizens, why is it supposed to work that way with our elected officials? And why does the Democratic Party keep telling us that it's supposed to work that way? Because honestly, y'all, that's the best they've got. And my criticism of Kamala Harris has nothing to do with her ethnicity or her gender. Like I said, I have a problem with Eric Holder and the decision he made at the Justice Department to not have the Justice Department prosecute and send to prison people who were involved in this theft, and instead negotiate fines for them. Yeah, I will forever be mad at him for that. Because look at the wreckage it caused. Those fines didn't help the people who were the victims of these big banks. People are still suffering. And part of that is Eric Holder's fault, black man that he is. So I understand that some people are hesitant to criticize Kamala Harris because they feel like, well, she's the best chance that liberals and even progressives have of getting someone who espouses their values into the White House. But when I look at her policies, I can't help but question whether she really has progressive policies or not. Whether she really advances progress. And that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to be an educated voter base. We're supposed to question and hold our elected officials accountable. If we don't, we keep getting Trump. You do understand that Trump is like, he's just like the natural progression of what we were going to get because we didn't pay any attention to what politicians were actually doing. We just liked the stuff they said. We liked the optics. We liked the symbolism, but we didn't question what Obama did for 8 years because we didn't want to criticize the black guy because he was under attack from so much racism. That's true, but he also advanced some really messed up policies that harmed people in this country and around the world. That's also true. That doesn't mean I don't recognize the historical significance of him being the first black president. Absolutely, I do. I just also recognize that when it comes down to policy, all my skin folk ain't my kinfolk. That's just true. Just because a politician looks like me, it doesn't mean they advocate for people like me. At the same time, progressives, we need to understand and be very clear about why we don't support certain politicians. I understand that people are just frustrated and annoyed when we express our mistrust for politicians and all we say is, well, they're corporate bought. Well, what does that mean? Tell me what that means. What about their policies do you not like? And if you don't know a politician's policies, progressives, then you're part of the problem too. You're part of the issue too, because you're not educating yourselves on what it is you're supposed to be advocating for. It's fine to be against politicians. We've all got to know what we stand against, but we also have to know what we stand for. See, I don't agree with the way Kamala Harris as AG handled the situation with One West Bank. That's why I'm mistrustful of her. So from that, I can say that I am for politicians holding financial institutions accountable to the point of criminal prosecution when they engage in widespread financial fraud and discrimination against their customer base. You can't get to B unless you understand A. And saying that somebody takes money from corporate backers, honestly, y'all, it's not enough. It really isn't enough. I get that that upsets you, but you do realize that all corporations aren't actually evil. All corporations aren't terrible. A lot of them are. But are we talking about a corporation that is fiscally responsible, environmentally responsible, that pays its workers well and gives them great benefits, and that actually looks out for their workers? They exist. Or are we talking about a corporation that invests in the prison industrial complex? There's a difference. There is a difference. And we can't just say that we don't like politicians because they take corporate money. That's not good enough. That, in my book, that's not good enough. And I think that's why some people in the Democratic Party are frustrated with the criticism of Kamala Harris. And also, we can't just say, as frustrating as it is for me as a woman and as a black woman to have anybody tell me, well, you should be happy because she is a black woman and you should vote for her. That also can't be the only reason we don't support a candidate, because we're tired of, I had to look at Kamala Harris's record. I did. And I couldn't make a decision on her right away. And I haven't finished looking at her record. There are other things I have to investigate, but at least I've been able to identify a concrete policy that I can say, you know, this gives me some misgivings about her. And I'm not, she doesn't give me the warm fuzzies that the Democrats want her to. And her being a woman and a woman of color doesn't warm me up because of this one issue. So I think, progressives, that we do have to do our own homework. I know that a lot of people get a lot of their information exactly from what I'm doing right now, from your favorite personalities online who tell you what to believe and what to focus on and what you should be angry at. And look, don't let social media, independent journalism, and correspondence make you as dependent on it as we were on mainstream media for as long as we were, to the point that you're just believing what people tell you and you're not doing your own homework. See, the reason I do this is to talk about issues that I figure most people don't know about. So I'm hoping that you take the information I give you and you go look up some of these topics that you haven't heard about, or some of these people that you haven't heard about, some of these incidences that you haven't heard about. That's what I'm hoping people do. That's why we share the articles that we do. That's why my friend George Massey and my husband really pushed me to do Brick by Brick, because there's an entire lexicon of issues that most people in this country have not heard of. They don't know the history behind how we got to some of the issues that we face today. And in order to solve those issues, we do need to know some of that history. So I'm hoping that you don't listen to me and go around and tell people, well, Jacqueline Luqman said, no, don't do that. Don't do that. What Jacqueline Luqman and what Abda Shahid Luqman wants you to do is we want you to go look up Kamala Harris's record yourself. I've just given you my personal reason for why I'm mistrustful of her, and my perspective on how we need to do better at educating ourselves as progressives, not just to determine who we don't support, but also to be able to articulate why we don't support them and what we do support. Because, see, once we know what we do support, we know what politician we should throw our support behind. But please don't take anybody's contribution on social media as, this is the gospel because this person said so. No, you take that information and you go research it. And if I'm wrong, correct me. Please do, because I am not the font of all knowledge. I don't think I am. I'm opinionated, just like you are. And I love these discussions, just like I hope you do. But I'm open to correction too. That's something that's sorely lacking in in our little corner of the independent media universe. Being open to correction is sorely lacking in some corners. I can't do anything about that. All I can do is be me. And for me, I understand the frustration coming from some in the Democratic Party in regard to how we're responding to Kamala Harris, because sometimes we don't articulate our position very well. We use very general terms, oh, she takes corporate money. Oh, she's a corporate shill. Oh, she's a Clintonista. Now look, stop calling people names. Stop using catchphrases. Stop using hashtags, and learn, understand, and articulate the reasons why regarding policy and track records for why you don't support some candidates and why you support some others. So I just feel like I had to kind of get that off my chest. I know there's a lot of other stuff going on, this whole Trump and North Korea and nuclear threats thing. I saw a tweet from Orange Cheeto. I know I just said stop calling people names, but I think he's the exception. We can call him names all the time. I just saw some tweets from Orange Cheeto where he said that the first thing he did as president was to call for the upgrade of our nuclear arsenal. And this is another example of why we need to question our elected officials and understand the policies that they advocate, because Trump didn't actually do that. He didn't actually modernize our nuclear arsenal. He didn't upgrade our nuclear anything. But do you know who did? President Barack Obama. He did. Instead of pushing for worldwide nuclear disarmament like he said he was going to, he budgeted $1 trillion to modernize our current nuclear arsenal, which is bigger than all of the other nuclear arsenals in the world combined. But when Obama passed that budget, that nuclear modernization budget, did we say anything? Where was the anti-war left? Where was the anti-war left then? So partially, I feel like the reason we have all of these issues with this person, Orange Cheeto, is because we didn't hold the Democrats accountable for 8 years. Because, like I said, we were afraid of criticizing Obama, especially black people. I'm going to be very specific, especially black people. I was at one point, because I didn't want to seem like, oh no, I'm making it worse. I don't want to give people an excuse to be racist against him. I actually had that thought. That's how much I recognize him being the first black president, how important and historical marker that is. But then I had to come back to my own reality and senses and realize that you don't need to give a racist an excuse to be a racist. They're just going to be a racist, regardless of what I say. So if somebody who is a racist is going to use my criticism of the former president's actual policies as a reason for them to be extra racist, that's not on me. The truth is what it is. It was President Obama who budgeted $1 trillion to modernize our nuclear arsenal, not this current president. But because we didn't hold Obama accountable for his actions and his policies, now we're dealing with the fallout. And I did not mean that as some type of prophetic pun. Don't. Now we're dealing with the outcome of our political malaise, I guess. So this is why it's important for us to hold all of our elected officials accountable. Because if we don't, then the ones that we like or the ones that we think aren't causing that much damage are actually going to cause a lot more damage than we think. And then someone who is much worse will come along and just pick up all the toys that they left and wreak all kinds of havoc. That's where we are now. That is, I believe, where we are now. So thank you guys for joining me. Let me see what you guys have had to say. Thanks, Angela. I think we need to tighten up our wordage. Vernon said that feeling didn't last long. I think that feeling of wanting to protect Obama lasted maybe 2 years for me, maybe 2.5 years. And then I was like, you know what? He's not really helping working people, poor people. He's not really talking about black people and the issues we face. He's not really doing much in the way of ensuring equal justice, equal protection under the law from a guy. So yeah, it just maybe 2.5 years. It took me a minute to come out of that. And when I did, oh my God, was I angry. So thank you all for joining me. You all have a great evening. Like this video, share it, like the page. I'm going to try to have an interview tomorrow night on Brick by Brick at 9 p.m. And if I don't, then I'll be live on Brick by Brick at 9 p.m. And then Saturday afternoon, Abdus and I will be live again here on Luke Mon Nation sometime around between 6 and 7 p.m. It's our anniversary weekend. So, we'll see what we're going to be talking about then. Thank you all very much for joining me. Y'all have a great day. Be good to each other. Peace.